Bruce Wayne lives two lives, but one matters more to him than the other. To the world, he is a billionaire who funds charities and companies, a man who wears a mask of wealth and ease. To himself, he is Batman. The addiction runs deeper than duty. Gotham's safety is the excuse, not the reason he suits up because he cannot stop. Every night, he needs the mask more than the city needs him. The streets of Gotham are filled with crime, but crime is endless. Even if Batman stopped every thief, every gang, every supervillain, something new would take their place. Bruce knows this, but he doesn't stop. He isn't chasing victory. He needs the fear in the eyes of criminals. He needs the rush of standing on a rooftop at night. Cape spread behind him like wings. He needs the sound of fists connecting, the sharp smell of the city's alleys, the brief moments when pain reminds him he is still alive. Imagine Bruce trying to stop. Suppose Alfred begged him to put away the cowl and live as a man again. He could walk away, enjoy his money, and even find love. But he wouldn't last. He would find excuses to return. A mugging in Crime Alley would be enough. A flare of the bat, signal in the sky would pull him back. It isn't just duty, it's compulsion. Like an addict, he tells himself it's for Gotham. But if Gotham truly healed, if the crime stopped, Batman would be the one who couldn't cope. He would search for shadows until he created them himself. This truth makes his battles with the Joker and other rogues darker than they appear. Each villain is part of the cycle. Each encounter feeding his need. When Batman refuses to kill the Joker, people say it's because of his code. But deep down, it's because the Joker is the mirror he cannot live without. Gotham offers endless crime, but the Joker offers the purest test, the clearest hit of what Batman craves. The game between them never ends, because Bruce won't let it. The Joker's chaos makes Bruce's obsession feel justified. Without that chaos, Bruce would have to face what he has become. There are nights when Bruce pushes himself past exhaustion, refusing rest, refusing peace. The bruises pile up, his bones ache, his body screams for relief. Still, he goes out again. The addiction makes him believe that only Batman can save the city. But the reality is cruel. Gotham never changes. The crime rate rises and falls, but the city's sickness always returns. In that cycle, Bruce finds a reason to keep wearing the mask, even when it destroys him. His wealth gives him every chance to walk away, but wealth cannot compete with the pull of the cowl. Bruce could live in peace, but peace terrifies him. Peace means silence. Silence means facing his own emptiness. So he chooses war every night. The darkness isn't just Gotham's curse. It is Bruce Wayne's too. And deep down, he wouldn't have it any other way. Alfred Pennyworth is known as the loyal butler, the man who patches Bruce Wayne's wounds and offers sharp advice with a dry wit. Most see him as a caretaker, someone who never leaves the manor and only supports Batman from the sidelines. But what if Alfred's calm presence hides something far more dangerous? In his youth, he trained with the League of Shadows. That truth would change everything about the man standing behind Bruce Wayne. The League of Shadows is not an organization one stumbles into by accident. It recruits, tests, and breaks those who wish to join. For Alfred to have trained with them, he would have needed discipline, skill, and a willingness to face death at every turn. His past as a soldier fits neatly with this path. A young Alfred, hardened by war, searching for purpose, would have found the League's philosophy appealing. They offered order through destruction, the promise of shaping the world through fear. It makes sense that someone who once lived by duty and combat would want to know what they could teach. Imagine Alfred standing in the frozen temples where the League trained their members. He would learn to fight with bare hands and blades. He would practice stealth until he could disappear in plain sight. He would master patience, endurance, and the art of controlling an enemy's mind through intimidation. The same man who later serves tea to Bruce could once have broken bones without hesitation. When you see Alfred guide Bruce through pain and exhaustion, the advice might not come only from wisdom or age. It might come from lived experience in the League's brutal methods. If this were true, it would explain how Alfred manages to stand his ground in a city filled with killers. There are moments in the comics and films where Alfred handles himself too well for a simple butler. He disarms thugs, fights off attackers, and sometimes holds his own beside Batman. His confidence in these moments would not come from nowhere. It would be the echo of his past training, hidden under years of restraint. Consider the way Alfred guides Bruce morally. He does not simply tell him to fight crime. He warns him about the cost of obsession, about the temptation of cruelty, about the danger of losing his humanity. These are not the words of a sheltered servant. They are the words of someone who has seen what happens when discipline turns to fanaticism. Alfred would know the League's flaws firsthand. He would have seen how their philosophy eats away at mercy and how their justice becomes tyranny. His guidance to Bruce could be his way of steering him away from the path he almost followed himself. There is another layer too. If Alfred once stood among the League, then he knows how they operate. He would understand their tactics, their infiltration, their reliance on fear. This makes him more than a mentor. It makes him a shield. When Ra's al Ghul or Talia appear in Gotham, Alfred's past knowledge would allow him to see what Bruce cannot. He would recognize the signs of their presence, the way they manipulate events, and he would act quietly to protect Bruce without ever revealing why he knows so much. To the world, Alfred is just the man polishing silverware in Wayne Manor. To Bruce, he is family. But if Alfred once trained with the League of Shadows, he is also something else. He is proof that the line between servant and warrior is thinner than it seems. His past would remain unspoken, his secrets buried, but the traces show in every sharp remark, every stitch he sews into Bruce's flesh, and every time he reminds the Batman not to become the monster he fights. The Joker has spent years clashing with Batman, yet he never unmasks him, never exposes him, and never destroys his life outside the cowl. Many assume it's because the Joker doesn't know who Batman really is. But what if the truth is that he already knows Bruce Wayne is Batman and simply doesn't care? For the Joker, the mask means more than the man beneath it. Think about how the Joker operates. He thrives on chaos, games, and theatre. To him, Batman isn't just a vigilante in a costume, he's the perfect stage partner. If the Joker admitted that Batman was Bruce Wayne, the game would lose its magic. Imagine the Joker sitting in Wayne Manor, staring across from Bruce at a dinner table. That scene would bore him. There's no fun in dragging the mask off and leaving a man behind. For the Joker, the cowl is the true face, and Bruce Wayne is the disguise. The Joker's indifference makes sense if you consider his own identity. He has no past he cares about, no name he values. Some stories suggest he was once a failed comedian, others say a criminal who fell into acid. But none of it matters to him. He calls himself the Joker because that identity is the only one he accepts. So when he looks at Batman, he sees the same thing. Bruce Wayne is meaningless to him because the mask has consumed him. The Joker only wants to play with Batman, not the man trapped beneath. There are hints across their history that support this. In stories like Death of the Family, the Joker comes dangerously close to admitting he knows. He talks about the Bat, family, about Bruce's connections, about the weight Batman carries outside the cave. But he never crosses the line. He chooses not to. This restraint is not mercy, it's obsession. To reveal the identity would break the toy. The Joker is too smart to ruin his own game. Picture a scenario where the Joker storms into a Wayne Enterprises board meeting. He could expose Bruce to every investor, every news outlet, and every ally. But what would that do for him? The Joker doesn't want to end Batman's myth. He wants to fuel it. To him, Batman must remain a creature of the night, a figure who terrifies criminals and challenges him in endless conflict. If Gotham knew Batman was Bruce Wayne, the mystery would die, and so would the dance. This explains why the Joker never kills Batman, no matter how many chances he has. For all his violence and madness, the Joker treats Batman like the one constant in his life. Knowing his name doesn't matter, because the name isn't what he's fighting. He's fighting the symbol, the obsession, the dark night itself. For Joker, the truth is boring. The mask is everything. And so he ignores the man and keeps his eyes locked on the myth he loves to break. Gotham City has always been broken. No matter how many criminals Batman takes down, no matter how many times the city is rebuilt after disaster, crime always returns. It rises again like smoke from the ruins. Some believe this is the fault of corruption, poverty, or politics. But what if the truth runs deeper? Gotham itself is cursed, a place where darkness cannot die, no matter how hard Batman fights. The city's history supports the idea. Long before Bruce Wayne put on the cape, Gotham was a place of violence and decay. The foundations of the city were built by families like the Waynes, the Cobblepots, and the Kanes. But wealth and influence did not create peace. The streets were always home to gangs, to blood spilled in alleys, to crime lords who treated Gotham like their kingdom. Even when new leaders rose to power or reform swept through City Hall, something always pulled Gotham back into chaos. It's as if the city itself rejects order. Consider how quickly new villains rise. Batman defeats Ra's al Ghul, the Joker, Bane, or the Penguin. And within months, someone new steps in. Even when Batman locks his greatest enemies in Arkham Asylum, they break free, or someone worse takes their place. The cycle never ends. This pattern suggests more than coincidence. It feels like a curse, as though Gotham's soil breeds madness, or the air itself spreads corruption. There are legends in the comics that point to this. Some say Gotham was built on cursed land, an old ground once soaked in blood by tribes and settlers long before skyscrapers touched the sky. Others say the Court of Owls, a secret society tied to Gotham for centuries, feeds the city's cycle of crime by design. If the court holds the strings, then Gotham's endless chaos is not random. It is planned, enforced, and passed down like tradition. Either way, the result is the same. No hero can ever fully save it. Imagine Batman retiring. Say he succeeds in dismantling the biggest crime families, cleaning up the police, and giving Gotham a chance to breathe. History shows what would happen next. Another figure would rise from the shadows. Maybe an unknown gangster would seize control, or a new rogue would appear with a twisted idea of justice. Gotham would create a new monster, because Gotham itself seems to need them. Even when Batman sacrifices everything, Gotham resets. The curse ensures that the war never ends. This curse explains Batman's endless struggle. His victories are temporary by nature. He saves people in the moment, but the city always drags itself back into blood and fear. This is why Gotham stands apart from other cities in the DC universe. Metropolis has Superman, and crime there never feels the same. Central City has the Flash, and villains there seem almost playful by comparison. Gotham remains different. It is a place defined by suffering. Even the architecture, the gargoyles, the crumbling bridges, the decaying towers, reflects the idea that Gotham is built for despair. Batman knows this. Deep down, He understands that no matter how hard he works, Gotham will never heal. Yet he keeps going. Perhaps he believes that if he stops, the curse will consume the city entirely. Or perhaps without Gotham's curse, there would be no Batman at all. At the end of The Dark Knight Rises, Gotham believes Bruce Wayne is dead. The city buries him as a fallen hero, the man who gave his life to save millions from a nuclear blast. But the final scenes suggest another truth. Bruce survived, escaping the blast, and chose to leave Gotham behind. He lives in hiding with Selina Kyle, away from the weight of the cowl and the endless war he waged for years. The idea of Bruce surviving makes sense when you look at his character. He is not reckless, even when he takes impossible risks. His entire life as Batman was built on preparation, planning, and anticipating outcomes. For him to fly the bomb out of the city without a plan to escape would go against everything he stood for. He trained himself to turn hopeless situations into victories. He had the resources, the skill, and the will to find a way out. Imagine the moment after the explosion. Gotham sees the mushroom cloud and believes their savior is gone. But in reality, Bruce had already ejected from the Bat before it reached the blast zone. He lands miles away, disappearing into obscurity while the world mourns him. Only Alfred, sitting in Florence, knows the truth when he sees Bruce at peace with Selina. It is a quiet ending, but one that feels earned. Living with Selina in hiding gives Bruce something he never allowed himself before: a normal life. For years, he defined himself by pain and mission every night. He carried the memory of his parents' murder and the burden of Gotham's corruption. She knows both Bruce Wayne and Batman, and unlike many, she doesn't need one more than the other. In her, he finds balance. Consider what daily life might look like for them. Bruce wakes in a small home by the sea, no longer surrounded by cave walls or crime reports. He doesn't check the Bat computer or polish a suit of armor. He shares coffee with Selina, who reminds him that survival itself is enough. The scars on his body remain, the memories linger, but for once he allows himself to rest. Gotham is no longer his prison. He gave the city his fortune, his reputation, and his years. In return, he takes peace. This doesn't mean Bruce is free of the cowl forever. Deep down, he will always carry Batman with him. The instinct to watch for threats, to analyze, to prepare, it never leaves. When he sees news reports of Gotham, he feels the pull. He knows crime still exists, and that the symbol of Batman is gone, but he resists. He trained successors like John Blake, who may carry on the fight. Bruce's sacrifice allowed him to walk away, and Selina anchors him in that choice. For Gotham, Batman became legend. For Bruce, life became his final victory. He escaped the cycle not through death, but by choosing to live. And though the world believes the Dark Knight is gone, he sits in the sunlight, finally unmasked, finally human. Batman is known for his rule. He does not kill. It is what separates him from the criminals he hunts. Yet one question never goes away. Why does he always let the Joker live? The Joker has killed countless people, tortured Gotham, and hurt everyone Batman cares about. Ending him would stop the cycle, but Batman never does it. Some say it's morality, others say it's restraint. But the truth may be darker. Batman lets the Joker live because he fears a Gotham without him. The Joker is not just another villain. He is chaos given shape, the perfect opposite of Batman's order. Every time they clash, it feels like a test that only the two of them can understand. Imagine Gotham without the Joker. On the surface, it seems like the city would heal. But what would that mean for Batman? Without his greatest enemy, what would drive him forward? The Joker is the one criminal who challenges every part of him. His mind, his rules, his endurance. To remove him would be to remove Batman's clearest purpose. Picture Bruce Wayne standing over the Joker after one of their battles. The Clown Prince lies beaten, laughing through broken teeth, daring Batman to cross the line. In that moment, Bruce knows one move would end the laughter forever. But he also knows that if he kills the Joker, the war changes. The Joker is not just a monster. He is the mirror that reflects Batman's obsession back at him. Without that reflection, Batman might be forced to face his own emptiness, to admit that the war is never truly winnable. The Joker keeps the struggle alive. There's also fear in the absence. If Batman killed the Joker, the vacuum might be worse. Gotham's curse ensures crime never vanishes. Without the Joker, someone else would rise, maybe more brutal, less predictable, without the same twisted fascination with Batman. The Joker's chaos is horrible, but in a way, it is familiar. Batman knows how to fight him. He understands the game with someone new. The rules could break, and Gotham might collapse into something worse. Keeping the Joker alive keeps the balance intact, no matter how fragile. The relationship between the two has been described as symbiotic. The Joker thrives because Batman exists, and Batman stays sharp because the Joker never dies. In many ways, Batman needs the Joker to justify the endless fight. If Gotham had no Joker, Batman might not know who he is anymore. The mission could end, but Bruce cannot end it. His addiction to being Batman makes him keep the Joker alive. It isn't mercy, it isn't compassion, it's fear of what Gotham and what Batman himself would look like if the Joker were gone. So every time the Joker falls into his hands, broken and defeated, Batman makes the same choice. He locks him up instead of ending him. He tells himself it's the code. But the truth lingers in the silence that follows. Gotham without the Joker is the one thing he isn't ready to face. The Batcave is often seen as Bruce Wayne's creation. It is the hidden base where he built his arsenal, kept his vehicles, and shaped his identity as Batman. But the cave existed long before Bruce, carved deep beneath Gotham. The tunnels stretch for miles, twisting like veins under the city. What if those tunnels once belonged to an ancient Gotham tribe? That idea changes how we see not just the Batcave, but Gotham itself. Long before skyscrapers touched the skyline, the land that became Gotham was home to native tribes. They knew the rivers, the forests, and the stone beneath. Caves like the one under Wayne Manor would not have been ignored. To a tribe, such a cavern was more than a shelter. It was a place of ritual, of protection, maybe even of fear. Imagine a group descending into the darkness with torches, marking the walls with symbols to claim the space as sacred. The same stalactites and shadows that later inspired Batman could have carried meaning centuries before. If the Batcave tunnels were once theirs, it explains their size and reach. They may have been expanded and reinforced by human hands long before Bruce's time. Early tribes could have used them for ceremonies or as escape routes during conflict. Later, settlers might have found the same tunnels and used them for smuggling or storage. Layer by layer history, built into the stone, long before Bruce placed a single computer inside. What Batman calls his base might be a space marked by centuries of survival and secrecy. Picture Bruce discovering markings deep in the tunnels, older than the city itself. Symbols carved into rock, faded paint from rituals, or bones buried in hidden alcoves. He would realize he is not the first to use the cave as a fortress. Others before him saw the same potential in its depth and shadows. The bats that frightened young Bruce might not have been a random element to the tribe. Bats could have been sacred, creatures of the night tied to omens or power. What Bruce took as a sign to become Batman may have been the same inspiration that drew the tribe to settle there. This connection changes the way Gotham is seen. If the Batcave was once sacred ground, Then Batman is continuing a legacy he never knew he inherited. He sees the cave as his weapon, but to the tribe it was likely a spiritual place tied to nature and survival. Their presence lingers in the tunnels, shaping Gotham in ways hidden from the surface. It also explains why the Batcave feels timeless. It is not just a hollow Bruce claimed for himself. It is a site where generations have left their mark. Every time Batman moves deeper, every time he builds new tunnels, he is walking through history layered beneath Gotham. The Batcave is not just his home. It is Gotham's memory, carved into stone long before the Wayne family, and it binds him to the city more deeply than he realizes. Bruce Wayne is known as a billionaire philanthropist. He funds hospitals, charities, and public projects through Wayne Enterprises. Most of Gotham sees him as a wealthy man trying to give back to the city. But behind that image, Bruce uses his fortune for something far greater. He secretly funds the Justice League, and in many cases, the heroes themselves don't even realize it. The Justice League is not a small operation. They need bases, equipment, technology, and transport. The Watchtower, their orbital headquarters, is one of the most advanced structures ever built. A project of that scale requires billions of dollars. Governments would never support it openly, and no single hero has the resources to maintain it. Yet somehow it stays operational. The answer lies in Bruce's quiet financing. He moves money through shell companies, hidden accounts, and Wayne Enterprises subsidiaries. To the public, it looks like research funding, aerospace development, or medical innovation. In reality, the money flows straight into keeping the League alive. Bruce never announces it because he doesn't need the credit. In fact, exposing himself would compromise the League. If the world knew Batman paid for their missions, suspicion would follow. People would accuse him of control or of manipulating the heroes for his own ends. So he hides his hand, letting Superman, Wonder Woman, and others believe the League runs through joint effort. The truth is that without Bruce's money, the League would fall apart within months. Imagine Superman flying to the Watchtower after a mission. He doesn't think about who pays for the advanced scanners that track threats across the globe. He doesn't wonder who covers the cost of maintaining orbit or repairing the systems damaged by alien attacks. He assumes it is handled maybe through cooperation between members. In reality, Bruce signs off on every hidden transfer that makes those systems possible. Superman brings strength, Wonder Woman brings leadership, Flash brings speed, but Bruce provides the infrastructure that allows them to operate as a team. There's also the question of equipment. Heroes like Flash and Green Lantern may not need financial support, but others do. Cyborg requires constant upgrades and repairs to his systems, the kind only cutting Edge Labs can provide. Aquaman may not care for money, but his connection to the League still requires resources for transport and coordination. Even simple things like communication gear, transportation for emergencies, and advanced med tech have a cost. Bruce pays for all of it. He ensures that the League never needs to worry about logistics, because he knows how vital those details are in keeping them focused on the mission. Bruce's secrecy also reflects his personality. He doesn't trust easily, not even his allies. By funding the League in silence, he ensures he controls the flow of money without making it obvious. If the day comes when the League turns against him or breaks apart, he can cut funding instantly, forcing them to adapt without his support. In this way, the hidden funding is not just generosity, it's insurance. To most, Bruce Wayne is just a man with wealth. To the League, Batman is a peer and a strategist. But the hidden truth is that he is also their unseen patron, the one who keeps the lights on while they save the world. The Justice League may stand as a symbol of unity, but its foundation rests quietly on Bruce Wayne's fortune, funneled through shadows no one else sees. The story of Batman begins with tragedy. A boy watches his parents gunned down in an alley, and that moment defines his life. Most versions of the story describe the killer as a random mugger named Joe Chill, a faceless criminal representing Gotham's cruelty. But what if Thomas and Martha Wayne's deaths were not random at all? What if their murders were carefully arranged by the Court of Owls, Gotham's secret rulers? The Court of Owls is a shadow society older than Gotham itself, made up of the city's wealthiest and most powerful families. The court has manipulated politics, crime, and business for generations. Their goal is simple: control. They see Gotham as their domain, and anyone who threatens their grip must be removed. Thomas Wayne was not just a doctor. He was a man of influence, a leader with a vision for a better Gotham. His wealth, connections, and sense of morality made him dangerous to those who thrived in corruption. Martha shared his ideals, often using philanthropy to push back against Gotham's decay. To the court, the Waynes were a threat. Imagine a meeting deep in the halls of the court. Wealthy figures in masks whisper about Thomas Wayne's plans for the city. His desire to fund reforms, to root out corruption, and to limit the power of old families would have shaken the very foundation of their control. To them, the answer would be simple. A warning was not enough. The Waynes had to die. This makes the murder in Crime Alley something more than chance. Joe Chill, in this version, is not just a desperate criminal. He is a weapon. The court has always relied on assassins known as talons, operatives trained to carry out their will. But sometimes they use more subtle tools. A hired gunman paid to commit a simple robbery, gone wrong, leaves no trace back to them. The death looks random, tragic, but not planned. Bruce grows up believing it was fate, when in truth it was orchestrated. If this were true, it changes the meaning of Batman's mission. Bruce believes he fights crime to prevent anyone from suffering the same loss he did. But if the court ordered the murder, then Batman's entire crusade is tied directly to Gotham's deepest corruption. He is not fighting chance or chaos. He is fighting a system that has always worked in shadows. The Court of Owls would not just be another enemy. They would be the enemy that shaped him from the beginning. There are hints in the comics that suggest this possibility. The court has long shown interest in the Wayne family, sometimes claiming connections to Bruce's lineage. They operate with reach and precision that match the tragedy in Crime Alley too closely to dismiss. The idea that they watched as a boy's life shattered, knowing it would serve their purpose, fits their cold and calculated history. Bruce's pain has always been rooted in the randomness of violence. But if the Court of Owls stood behind it, then his parents' deaths were not random at all. They were part of a plan to keep Gotham under control. A plan that unknowingly created the very figure who would rise against them in the night. Batman has fought gods, monsters, and men who turned themselves into weapons. He has faced the Joker's madness, Bane's strength, and Ra's al Ghul's centuries of knowledge. But none of these are his greatest enemy. The real threat to Batman is time itself. No matter how strong his will is, or how sharp his mind remains, aging will defeat him. Bruce Wayne built his war on Gotham around physical mastery. Every night, he pushes his body past its limits. He trains until exhaustion, takes beatings that would cripple most men, and then rises to do it again. His body has always been the tool that allows him to turn fear into power, but tools wear down. Bone fractures heal slowly, joints stiffen, and reaction times falter. A younger Batman could leap across rooftops and take down gangs with precision. An older Batman starts to feel the weight of every strike he ever delivered and every injury he ever took. Consider the countless wounds he has carried. Broken ribs, concussions, knife cuts, bullet grazes. These don't vanish. They leave scars that build over time, turning even the strongest frame into something fragile. He hides it well, wrapping bandages under the armor and swallowing pain as if it doesn't matter. But time notices. Every scar is a reminder that the body only has so many years of war in it. His mind remains his sharpest weapon, but even that is vulnerable. Sleepless nights, constant stress, and trauma wear away at focus. Batman is known for being 10 steps ahead of his enemies, but planning requires clarity. As age sets in, the weight of memory grows heavier. The deaths, the failures, the endless cycle of Gotham's crime, they all accumulate. Time attacks not just the body, but the will to continue. Imagine a night years after his prime. Batman jumps from a ledge he has leapt from hundreds of times before. But this time his knees buckle under the landing. A fight with street thugs takes minutes longer than it once did. He hesitates, just for a second, and that second nearly costs him his life. His gadgets can only cover so much. His mind can only compensate for so long. Age turns every mission into a risk he once shrugged off. This is why Bruce trains others, even if he never admits it openly. Dick Grayson becomes Nightwing. Jason Todd, and later Damian Wayne, step into the mantle of Robin, and others take pieces of his legacy. Deep down, Bruce knows time will win. He can fight the Joker forever, but he cannot fight the slow collapse of his own body. One day, Gotham will need a Batman who isn't him. The irony is sharp. Batman prepares for every threat, builds contingency plans for gods and allies alike, but he cannot prepare for time. There is no gadget to reverse aging, no strategy to beat mortality. Even Ra's al Ghul, who cheats death with the Lazarus Pit, shows how desperation to escape time only leads to madness. Bruce will never allow himself that path. He accepts the war, knowing that one night he won't rise again. The greatest enemy is not a clown, not a tyrant, not even Gotham's curse. It is the slow, steady march of time, stripping away his strength until even the dark night must yield. When people talk about Batman's legacy, they often think of the Robins who stood beside him. Jason Todd, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, even others who wore the costume for a time. Each of them carried a part of Bruce's mission. But one name stands above the rest: Dick Grayson. From the beginning, Nightwing was always meant to be Batman's true heir. Dick's story mirrors Bruce's in ways that are impossible to ignore. As a child, he watched his parents die in front of him, murdered during a circus performance. That loss gave him the same wound Bruce carried from Crime Alley. Bruce took him in, not just out of compassion, but because he recognized himself in the boy. They were both shaped by tragedy, both driven by justice. Dick's training, as Robin, was never just about fighting crime. It was about preparing someone who could understand the burden of the cowl better than anyone else. Over the years, Dick grew beyond Robin. Where Jason was reckless and Damian was molded for war, Dick developed into his own man. He became Nightwing, building his reputation in BL Feedhaven, a city just as dark as Gotham but less consumed by it. He showed that he could stand on his own without the Bat's shadow, yet he never abandoned the lessons Bruce gave him. That independence proves why he is the heir Bruce truly needs. A successor cannot be a copy. They have to be someone who respects the symbol, but can carry it forward in their own way. Imagine Bruce nearing the end of his time as Batman. He looks at his options. Jason carries too much anger. Tim is a brilliant detective, but his mind is always chasing patterns rather than leading. Damian, though his blood makes him a Wayne, was raised by the League of Assassins. He struggles with morality in ways that make him unpredictable. But Dick has balance. He understands the darkness, yet does not let it consume him. He knows how to lead, not just follow. He inspires people, something Bruce never cared to master. Nightwing has already proven his ability to step into the role. In stories across the comics, there are moments where Dick takes on the mantle of Batman when Bruce is gone. Each time, he shows that the mission continues in steady hands. The criminals fear him, the allies trust him, and the city still sees the bat as a symbol of justice. Yet when Dick wears the cowl, he brings something different. Hope. Where Bruce's Batman is a creature of fear, Dick's Batman is a figure of strength and resilience. That difference matters because Gotham doesn't just need fear. It also needs someone who can remind it of light. From the day he became Robin, Dick was tied to the mantle. He shared Bruce's loss, his mission, and his relentless drive. But unlike others, he grew into a man who could hold the weight of the symbol without breaking. For all his flaws, Bruce always knew that when the time came, Nightwing would be the one to carry the legacy. Gotham's villains are some of the most dangerous in the world. They are colourful, theatrical, and larger than life. But they did not all emerge on their own. Many of them rose because of Batman's presence. His war on crime created an environment where criminals began to mirror him. His shadow pushed ordinary crime into something stranger, darker, and more extreme. Before Batman, Gotham's underworld was brutal, but predictable. Mob bosses like Carmine Falcone and Sal Maroni ruled the city through fear, bribes, and violence. Corruption ran through the police and city hall, but it was organized crime in its purest form. When Bruce Wayne put on the mask, he struck fear into the gangs. He made criminals look over their shoulders at night. For a time, it worked. Street crime fell, and mob bosses began to lose power. But Gotham did not stay quiet. Batman's methods changed the rules. To stand out against him, criminals had to become something more. The Joker is the clearest example. His obsession with Batman defines him. Without Batman, the Joker would likely have been another criminal or a failed clown lost to time. But facing Batman, he became chaos personified, building himself into the one enemy who could match the Bat's intensity. He laughs because Batman scowls. He kills because Batman refuses to. Their relationship proves that Batman's existence shaped the Joker into something unique to Gotham. Other villains show the same pattern. The Riddler craves puzzles and riddles, but his real purpose is to prove he is smarter than Batman. Without Batman, his crimes would not escalate into citywide challenges. 2. Face reflects the same duality Batman embodies: order and chaos, justice and vengeance. Scarecrow uses fear, the same tool Batman wields, but twists it into cruelty instead of justice. Each of them echoes pieces of Batman's identity, as if Gotham itself responds to the Bat by creating distorted reflections. Imagine Gotham without Batman. The mob might still hold power, but the supervillains would never rise in the same way. There would be no need for the Joker to prove himself as the ultimate opponent. The Riddler would not have a worthy mind to battle. Scarecrow's experiments might remain in classrooms instead of spilling into the streets. Batman's presence makes Gotham's criminals evolve, pushing them into the extremes that define them. This doesn't mean Batman is to blame for their actions. They choose their paths, but his presence gives them a stage. When he became a symbol, they wanted to become symbols too. Gotham's curse ensures crime never leaves. But Batman's war shaped the form that crime takes. His mask terrifies ordinary thugs, yet it inspires lunatics to rise to his level. Every time Batman defeats one villain, another seems to emerge stranger than the last. It is as though Gotham itself responds to him, balancing his darkness with new chaos. This endless cycle explains why the city never heals. Batman may protect Gotham from total collapse, but his presence ensures it will always breed the kinds of enemies only he can fight. Every night when Bruce Wayne puts on the cape and cowl, he carries the weight of his parents' deaths. Their murder in Crime Alley is the origin of Batman, the wound that never healed. But what if the ritual of suiting up brings him more than pain? What if, in those moments, he hallucinates his parents' approval? Each time he becomes Batman, he imagines Thomas and Martha Wayne standing behind him, nodding, as if this life is the one they wanted for him. The idea makes sense when you look at how Bruce lives. He is a man driven by obsession, someone who sacrifices comfort, health, and relationships to maintain his mission. For anyone else, this would be unbearable. The guilt of failing to save his parents should have crushed him. But to keep going, Bruce must believe they would approve of what he does. Otherwise, he is nothing more than a boy who never grew past trauma. The hallucinations, real or imagined, give him a reason to continue. Imagine Bruce standing in front of the Bat, suit before patrol. The armor waits in the cave, lit by cold light. In his mind, he sees his father's hand on his shoulder, steady and firm, telling him he is making the right choice. He hears his mother's voice, soft but certain, telling him she is proud of him for protecting Gotham. These moments are not real, but they feel real enough for Bruce. Without them, he might falter. With them, he pushes himself past exhaustion and pain. There are hints of this in how he talks about his parents. He often frames his mission as a promise, a vow he made to them on the night they died. But that promise goes further than words. It shapes how he sees himself. When Batman strikes fear into criminals, Bruce imagines Thomas Wayne approving of his strength. When he saves a child from violence, he imagines Martha smiling at him for protecting innocence. These visions are a coping mechanism, a way to turn grief into fuel. The hallucinations also explain his inability to stop. No matter how much Gotham takes from him, no matter how close he comes to death, Bruce suits up again. If he stopped, the voices of his parents would fall silent. The imagined approval would vanish, leaving him alone with guilt. Continuing the mission lets him keep them alive in his mind. Every time the cape settles on his shoulders, it is not just about Gotham, it is about hearing his parents one more time. Consider a night when Batman is beaten and bloodied, barely able to rise. Most men would stay down. But Bruce imagines his father's disapproval if he quit. He sees his mother's disappointment if he failed to stand. These hallucinations push him to endure what should be impossible. They keep him in the fight even when logic tells him to stop. Bruce Wayne built Batman out of trauma, but he sustains him with illusion. The hallucinations of his parents' approval allow him to believe the endless war is not madness, but destiny. In reality, he can never know what they would think of the man he became, but in his mind, they approve every time he suits up. And that belief is what keeps the Dark Knight alive. Batman is known for his paranoia. He prepares for every threat, no matter how unlikely. When he joined the Justice League, he even created detailed contingency plans to neutralize each member if they ever went rogue. Superman, Wonder Woman, The Flash, none of them were exempt. But what most people overlook is that Batman also prepared contingency plans against himself. He knows that his greatest enemy might not be out there in Gotham. It might be the man in the cape and cowl. Bruce Wayne understands his own nature better than anyone. He knows his obsession with the mission consumes him. He knows that his refusal to rest, his willingness to cross dangerous lines, and his dependence on fear as a weapon could one day twist him into something unrecognizable. If Batman ever lost control, Gotham would not be protected. It would be ruled by a tyrant with no limits. To prevent that, Bruce created ways to stop himself. Imagine the cave filled with hidden safeguards. Files locked behind encryption not even Alfred can access. Weapons designed to disable his own gear, and signals ready to shut down his vehicles and gadgets. He leaves instructions for allies like Nightwing or Tim Drake, giving them knowledge they might one day need to bring him down. These are not casual notes. They are detailed plans, written with the cold logic of a man who has thought through every weakness in his own system. The strength of Batman has always been his preparation, but that strength also makes him dangerous. If he ever decided Gotham needed control instead of justice, no one could stop him unless they had access to his own designs. That possibility haunts him. In some stories, we see glimpses of alternate versions of Bruce who lose their moral compass. These what-if Batmen rule with brutality, using fear as absolute power. Bruce studies these possibilities not as fiction, but as warnings of what he could become. Consider how this would play out. If Bruce ever killed the Joker in rage, the line he swore never to cross would vanish. From there, the killings could spread, justified by efficiency or necessity. Gotham would gain peace, but at the cost of freedom. In preparing for himself, Bruce accepts that such a moment could happen. His contingencies are the leash he cannot trust himself to hold. He may even count on his allies to carry the burden. By sharing fragments of his plans with people like Dick Grayson, or even Superman, he gives them the tools to stop him if he falls too far. It shows both trust and fear. Trust that they would use the information responsibly, and fear that one day they will have to. Bruce knows the mission cannot end with him becoming the very monster he swore to fight. Every weapon in the cave, every piece of armor, every system in place, Batman has thought of ways to turn them against himself. It is the ultimate proof of his self-awareness. He knows that the only person as dangerous as Batman is Batman without restraint. The Joker has always been a mystery. His past changes with every story. Sometimes he was a failed comedian, sometimes a criminal who fell into chemicals. Other times, nothing is explained at all. But what if the reason for his shifting history is simple? The Joker is immortal, a trickster who has haunted Gotham for centuries. His laughter is not tied to one man's life. It is tied to the city itself. The idea of Joker's immortality fits the way he appears in Gotham's history. There are records, rumors, and stories of figures who resemble him long before Batman was born. In the comics, this idea is explored in Whispers of the Pale Man, a clown-faced figure who surfaces throughout Gotham's past. He wears different names, different disguises, but the same smile repeats. His crimes echo across generations. If this is true, then Joker is not just a man who met Batman by chance. He is a constant woven into Gotham like its architecture and corruption. Imagine the city in the 1800s. Wealthy families hold masquerade balls, and among them appears a pale figure with a grin too wide to be natural. A century earlier, dockworkers vanish, and witnesses claim a jester, like man, lured them to their deaths. Even further back, settlers whisper about a pale trickster who lived in the caves beneath the land that would become Gotham. It is recycled through time, each generation receiving its own version of the same cruel laughter. This explains why Batman never ends him. No matter how many times the Joker should die, he returns. He survives explosions, falls, and wounds that should be fatal. His resilience is not luck. It is the effect of something deeper. Some theories suggest a connection to the Lazarus Pit, the same source that grants Ra's al Ghul extended life. Others argue the Joker is tied to Gotham itself, cursed to rise again, as long as the city remains broken. In that version, Gotham needs him as much as it needs Batman. One cannot exist without the other. If the Joker is immortal, then his obsession with Batman makes more sense. He has seen Gotham's heroes come and go. Police chiefs, vigilantes, and crime bosses rise and fall, but only Batman challenges him on a level that matters. For the Joker, Batman is the first opponent worthy of centuries of survival. That is why he never leaves Gotham, why he refuses to care about Bruce Wayne's true identity. He is not fighting the man. He is fighting the symbol that balances his chaos. Think of the countless times Batman has nearly killed him. Every time, the Joker returns, laughing harder, as if death itself cannot touch him. To Gotham's criminals, it feels supernatural. To Batman, it is maddening. He prepares for everything, but how do you fight someone who cannot die? The Joker, as an immortal trickster, makes him more than a villain. It makes him Gotham's curse given form. A figure who reflects the city's endless cycle of corruption and rebirth. His smile is not only the mark of madness, it is the reminder that Gotham has carried him for centuries and will carry him for centuries more. Batman is mortal. He bleeds, he breaks, and his body carries the weight of every wound he has ever taken. But over the years, Bruce Wayne has faced battles so extreme that he should not have survived. There are stories that he has already died more than once and returned, not through willpower alone, but with the help of the Lazarus Pit, the same mystical waters that Ra's al Ghul has used to cheat death for centuries, may have touched Bruce as well. The Lazarus Pit is dangerous. It restores life and heals wounds, but it also brings madness. Ra's al Ghul relies on it to maintain his rule, dipping into its green glow whenever age or death threatens him. Bruce knows the risks, but he also knows the value. A man who sacrifices everything for Gotham would not ignore the chance to rise again if it meant protecting the city one more time. Even if he despises Ra's methods, Bruce has always been willing to use what he must when the stakes demand it. Imagine a night where Batman takes a killing blow. Perhaps it's Bane crushing him beneath brute strength, or an explosion that buries him in rubble. His allies recover his body, broken and lifeless. Normally that would be the end, but in desperation someone close to him, maybe Talia al Ghul, maybe even an ally who knows the secret, submerges him in the Lazarus waters. Minutes later, his eyes snap open, burning with confusion and rage before his mind settles. The city believes Batman has cheated death once more, but the truth is darker. He was dead, and only forbidden magic pulled him back. This would explain the resilience that often borders on the impossible. Time and again, Bruce has faced injuries that should have ended him. Explosions, falls, direct blows from gods and monsters. Yet he rises. Fans often attribute this to his willpower, his sheer refusal to quit. But there is another possibility: he has been restored. Healed not only by medicine, but by something far older. His scars tell a story of survival, but the hidden truth may be that survival came at a cost Gotham will never see. The Lazarus Pit does not come without consequences. Each resurrection carries side effects: violence, instability, shifts in personality. For someone like Ra's, those traits only feed into his cruelty. For Bruce, the danger is different. He already walks a line between justice and obsession. A brush with the Lazarus waters might explain moments where Batman grows darker, colder, more ruthless than before. It is not just trauma shaping him, it is the residue of death and rebirth. Consider the effect this would have on Bruce's allies. If Dick Grayson or Alfred discovered the truth, their loyalty would be tested. Would they still see him as human or as something unnatural? Bruce himself would struggle most. He built Batman on discipline and will, not magic or shortcuts. To depend on the Lazarus Pit would go against everything he stands for. Yet, if the choice is between staying dead and protecting Gotham, he would choose the pit every time. In this way, Bruce Wayne may already have crossed death's threshold multiple times. Gotham sees him as relentless, unstoppable. But the real reason he endures may lie in the forbidden waters of the Lazarus Pit, pulling him back from the grave so the Dark Knight can fight again. Jonathan Crane, the Scarecrow, is one of Gotham's most dangerous minds. He does not rely on brute strength or weapons. Instead, he uses fear toxin, a chemical that forces his victims to confront their worst nightmares. For most, The toxin brings hallucinations of death, monsters, or failure. But when used on Batman, it does something different. It doesn't just show fear. It unlocks Bruce Wayne's deepest hidden memories. Pieces of his past buried so far down that even he does not face them until the toxin drags them into the light. Bruce's mind is a fortress. He has trained it against hypnosis, psychic intrusion, and manipulation. Few can pierce his defenses. But fear is his weakness. His identity was born from it. The fear of a child standing in crime alley. The toxin bypasses his mental training because it doesn't come from outside, it comes from within. The gas unlocks what Bruce has forced himself to forget. Imagine Batman under the toxin's influence in a dark alley. At first he sees the usual, the gun, the pearls falling, his parents collapsing to the ground. But the visions dig deeper. He doesn't just see the crime, he remembers things he buried. His father's voice arguing about Gotham's corruption, his mother's smile fading under the weight of a city. She feared for her son. He remembers the panic of running through the house as a child, the shadows that seemed to chase him even in his own home. These are not images he talks about. They are pieces of his life locked away until the toxin forces them into the open. The toxin also exposes moments of doubt. Memories of failures he pretended didn't matter rise up with brutal clarity. Jason Todd's death returns not just as an event, but as every detail he ignored leading up to it. Times he hesitated, times his choices put others at risk, times when Gotham burned. Because he was not fast enough, the mind protects itself by burying some of these memories. But Scarecrow's formula drags them back, showing him the cost of being Batman in a way no enemy ever could. There are even suggestions that the toxin could reveal truths Bruce refuses to admit to himself. Memories are not always clear, and sometimes they are rewritten by guilt or fear. Under the toxin, he may confront versions of the past that blur the line between memory and nightmare. Did his parents argue before their deaths about leaving Gotham behind? Did Thomas Wayne have secrets Bruce never uncovered? Did Bruce hesitate for a second in Crime Alley, wishing he could do something but failing to move? These questions torment him, and the toxin makes them feel real. The danger is that the toxin does not only harm him, it teaches him. Every time Batman faces Scarecrow, he comes away with knowledge he never wanted. He learns about the cracks in his own mind. He sees how much of his mission is built on suppressed memory. How much of Batman is the product of things he tried to bury. For Bruce, surviving the toxin is not just about beating fear. It is about facing parts of himself he would rather leave in the dark. Wayne Enterprises stands as one of Gotham's most respected corporations. To the public, it funds hospitals, builds infrastructure, and leads in medical and technological research. But beneath that polished exterior, the company serves another purpose. It secretly builds weapons and technology for the Batcave. Every piece of equipment Batman uses, from the Batsuit to the Batmobile, traces back to the hidden resources of Wayne Enterprises. Bruce Wayne runs the company through layers of separation. He places trusted allies, like Lucius Fox, in key positions. They manage divisions in applied sciences, research, and defense contracts. On paper, these projects appear harmless or experimental. A grappling hook is listed as a prototype for military climbing gear. Lightweight body armor is explained as a test for new police vests. Even the Batmobile can be written off as a rejected vehicle for combat zones. By funneling these creations through legitimate departments, Bruce hides his true purpose. Imagine a board meeting at Wayne Enterprises. Executives see blueprints for high-strength fabrics, next-generation surveillance drones, and non-lethal crowd control devices. They believe they are reviewing products for law enforcement or overseas contracts. In reality, these are prototypes that will end up in the Batcave. The board votes on budgets without realizing that every signature helps fund Batman's war on crime. The scale of these projects reveals the scope of Bruce's planning. A single man in a cave cannot create advanced vehicles or cutting-edge technology. The Batcomputer, the Batwing, and the armored suits all require industrial facilities, specialized engineers, and a supply chain only a global company can provide. By using Wayne Enterprises, Bruce ensures that Batman has resources beyond any ordinary vigilante. He transforms corporate power into the foundation of his crusade. Lucius Fox plays a critical role in this arrangement. He knows enough to provide Bruce with the tools he needs, but he shields the truth from others. When auditors ask why certain projects vanish from development, Lucius has explanations ready. Failed prototypes, classified research, or discontinued defense programs. Each story hides the fact that the product now rests beneath Wayne Manor. Without Lucius, Bruce's secret would be exposed within months. Consider the Batmobile as an example. The design looks like a military vehicle built for war zones. Heavy armor, high-speed capability, and weapon systems that border on tanks. A company like Wayne Enterprises could easily justify such a prototype for government use. But when the project fails, the vehicle never goes to waste. Instead, it is customized in secret for Gotham's streets, becoming Batman's most iconic tool. Even the smallest gadgets follow this path. Smoke pellets, EMP devices, miniaturized tracking tools, all can be disguised as civilian tech in early stages. A new kind of medical patch is developed for hospitals, but quietly altered to stabilize Batman in the field. A drone project aimed at search, and rescue is modified into reconnaissance gear. Bruce carefully repurposes what others see as harmless, creating weapons that fit his mission perfectly. Wayne Enterprises may look like a philanthropic corporation, but in truth, it is the silent partner of Batman. The skyscrapers and offices hide the assembly lines that fuel the Batcave. Every time Batman takes to the streets, he carries with him the hidden machinery of his own empire, built in secret and disguised as progress. The Bat signal shines above Gotham as one of the city's most recognizable images. To the public, it looks like a beacon, a call for Batman when the police need help. But its true purpose is not just communication. The Bat signal works as a psychological weapon, designed less for summoning Batman and more for shaping how Gotham thinks. Commissioner Gordon knows Batman does not need a light to find crime. Bruce patrols every night, scanning rooftops and alleys. His network of surveillance and instincts often leads him to the scene before the police arrive. In reality, the Bat signal is about perception. It tells Gotham that Batman is always watching, always ready. Even if Bruce is nowhere near, the criminals staring up at the symbol believe he could be right behind them. Imagine a gang preparing to rob a bank. They load their weapons, check their watches, and plan their escape. Suddenly, one looks up and sees the Bat, signal glowing across the clouds. Fear spreads through the group. Some hesitate, wondering if Batman already knows. Others panic, believing he might already be waiting in the shadows. The robbery might fall apart before it begins. In this way, the signal prevents crimes not by alerting Batman, but by convincing criminals that he is unavoidable. It also comforts the innocent. Gotham is a city built on fear and corruption. Ordinary people walk home at night, unsure if they will survive the streets. When they see the Bat signal, it tells them someone is fighting for them. They may not trust the police, and they may not trust the city's leaders, but the light in the sky reminds them that Gotham is not abandoned. The symbol itself becomes a weapon against despair. The brilliance of the Bat signal lies in its ambiguity. Criminals never know if it means Batman has been called or if it is just a bluff. Sometimes Gordon lights it without needing him, simply to spread fear through the underworld. Batman himself understands the value of this. His war on crime has always been built on fear as much as strength. The signal allows him to project that fear across the entire city at once. It is a reminder that he is more than a man. He is a presence that lingers in every shadow. There are times when the signal has been used against him as well. Villains have hijacked it, twisting the symbol into a challenge or a trap. But even then, it proves its strength. The Joker, Scarecrow, or Riddler can try to mock it. Yet the criminals of Gotham still shudder when the light appears. The shape of the bat carries weight. No villain can erase. For Batman, the signal is not a necessity. He does not need a light to hunt, but he understands its power. It turns the idea of Batman into something larger than flesh and blood. Every time it cuts across the sky, it wages war on the minds of Gotham, striking fear into criminals and giving hope to the innocent. The bat signal is not just a call for help. It is the sharpest weapon in his arsenal of fear. Batman is famous for his no-kill rule. It defines him as much as the cowl itself. He refuses to cross the line that separates him from the criminals he fights. But when you look closer, that rule is not as absolute as it seems. In truth, Batman has broken it more often than he admits, and more often than the world sees. The rule is simple in words, but complicated in practice. Gotham is violent, and Batman faces enemies who kill without hesitation. Every fight he enters carries the risk of death, whether by accident or design. He avoids lethal force, but he cannot control every outcome. A criminal thrown from a rooftop may not survive the fall. A thug slammed into a wall may not rise again. Batman does not check every pulse before he moves on. In his mind, he strikes to disable. But in reality, some of those blows end lives. Consider the gadgets he uses. The Batmobile fires rounds strong enough to disable armored vehicles. Explosions erupt from his grenades. High-voltage shock weapons incapacitate enemies in seconds. Non-lethal by design, yes, but still deadly if used with too much force. In the chaos of combat, with multiple enemies swarming him, Batman cannot guarantee survival for everyone he strikes. He tells himself the tools are meant to stop, not to kill, but the line between the two blurs often. There are examples in his history where the deaths are less subtle. In early stories, Batman carried guns and had no problem using them. Even later, when the code became firm, certain battles left questions. Fighting Ra's al Ghul in burning deserts, battling Bane in collapsing buildings, or striking foes into electrical currents. These moments leave little chance of survival. Batman moves on, focused on the mission, but the evidence suggests otherwise. One scenario highlights the truth. Imagine Batman battling a group of armed criminals on a speeding train. He disarms one, throws another through glass, and knocks the last unconscious before pulling the brakes. The scene ends with him alive and the villains out of sight. But the train's speed, the height of the fall, and the damage done make survival. Unlikely, Batman does not return to confirm. He convinces himself they lived. It is easier to hold the rule that way. Part of the reason his code endures is image. Gotham needs to believe Batman is different, that he stands apart from killers. His allies need to believe it too. If Commissioner Gordon or Dick Grayson knew the full truth, their faith might fracture. Batman protects the symbol by hiding the reality. He buries the knowledge of his own kills beneath the vow he repeats to himself. This does not mean he is careless. He avoids lethal intent at all costs. But the battlefield does not care about intent. Gotham is chaos, and in that chaos, people die by his hand. He does not record them, he does not speak of them, but deep down he knows the vow is already broken. The no-kill rule is not unbroken purity. It is a mask, just like the cowl. Batman and the Joker are locked together in a cycle that never ends. Their battles go beyond crime and justice. They are two sides of the same coin, both born from trauma, both shaped by one night that destroyed who they once were. The difference is how they responded. Bruce Wayne became Batman. The Joker became chaos. One chose order, the other madness, but both are reflections of the same wound. Bruce's trauma is clear. He watched his parents die in Crime Alley, and that single event defined the rest of his life. From that night, he carried grief, guilt, and rage. He shaped those emotions into discipline and turned himself into a symbol of fear to fight crime. The mask of Batman is his answer to trauma, a way to make sense of a world that once felt meaningless. He fights to give that meaning back. The Joker's trauma is less defined, and that makes it even more powerful. His origin shifts depending on the telling. Sometimes he is a failed comedian humiliated by life. Other times he is a criminal who fell into a vat of chemicals, scarred forever. No matter the version, he is broken by an event that strips away his old self. His trauma takes everything from him, just as Bruce's did. But instead of shaping himself into a weapon of control, the Joker embraces the chaos of it. He finds freedom in meaninglessness, laughing at the same cruel world that Bruce fights to correct. Imagine the two of them standing side by side in their earliest moments of loss. Young Bruce, staring at his parents in the alley, feels his life shatter. A young man who will become the Joker, standing on the edge of failure, sees his future collapse in a different way. Both moments are cracks in the soul, where Bruce fills the crack with justice. Joker fills his with madness. Each choice defines the rest of their lives, but the source is the same: pain. This connection explains why they are drawn to each other. The Joker mocks Batman, not just to taunt him, but because he recognizes him. He sees the same wound reflected behind the mask. He pushes Batman to break his code, because he knows how close Bruce is to falling into the same darkness. If Batman ever killed, if he ever surrendered to despair, he would become Joker's twin. The clown laughs because he knows how thin the line really is. For Batman, this reflection is unbearable. Every time he looks at the Joker, he sees what he could have been if he had made one different choice. That is why he never ends him. Killing the Joker would mean killing the last reminder of the path he avoided. At the same time, letting him live means constantly facing the mirror of his own trauma. It is a punishment he cannot escape. The warped reflection makes their conflict eternal. Gotham has many villains, but none strike at Bruce's core the way Joker does. Both were born in moments of loss, and both carry that moment into everything they do. One hides behind a mask of a bat, the other behind a grin painted in madness. Their war is not just hero versus villain, it is trauma against trauma, endlessly reflected in the streets of Gotham. Bruce Wayne has spent years protecting his secret identity, hiding the truth that he is Batman behind wealth, charm, and careful planning. But Gotham is not blind. The city's police department, the GCPD, has worked beside him for decades. They have studied the Bat's movements, seen his resources, and connected the dots. Many of them already know Bruce Wayne is Batman. They simply choose not to act on it. At first glance, this sounds unlikely. Bruce has gone to great lengths to keep his identity hidden. He uses technology to scramble his voice, disguises his injuries, and ensures that no one connects his wealth to the Bat's arsenal. But the police are investigators by nature. Detectives like Renee Montoya and Harvey Bullock have spent years piecing together cases that others overlook. They notice patterns. They see how Bruce disappears at key moments, how his injuries match Batman's battles, and how Wayne money flows into technologies that end up in the Batcave. Over time, the evidence becomes too strong to ignore. The unspoken truth is that Gotham's police keep the secret, because exposing it would do more harm than good. Batman has saved the city more times than they can count. He has stopped terrorists, supervillains, and crime lords that the GCPD could never touch. If the department revealed Bruce as Batman, they would lose their greatest ally. Gotham would lose its protector. The public would know that their Dark Knight was only a man in a mask, and the myth would collapse. The criminals who fear the Bat would suddenly see him as vulnerable. The police understand this, so they stay silent. Imagine a late-night meeting between Gordon and a group of trusted officers. Someone brings up Bruce Wayne's name, pointing out how his movements line up with Batman's patrols. Another mentions the money trails that don't add up. Gordon listens, but instead of ordering an investigation, he reminds them that Batman has kept the city alive when the system failed. He tells them that some truths are better left unspoken. The officers nod, not because they are fooled, but because they know Gotham cannot afford to lose him. This silence also carries an element of loyalty. Many officers have been saved by Batman personally. They have seen him drag them out of burning buildings or shield them from bullets. For them, keeping his secret is a debt of honor. They protect him the way he protects them. Not through paperwork or procedure, but through trust. In a city where corruption runs deep, that kind of loyalty is rare. There is also a practical reason. If Bruce Wayne were ever exposed, the Wayne name would collapse under scandal. Wayne Enterprises would be torn apart, and all the funding behind Batman's war would vanish. Gotham would not just lose a vigilante, it would lose the resources that keep the city from drowning in crime. By keeping the truth quiet, the police protect more than a man. They protect the fragile balance that allows Gotham to survive. The GCPD knows who hides under the mask. They whisper it among themselves, trading knowing looks when Bruce limps into a gala after a long night. But they keep the knowledge buried, not out of ignorance, but out of choice. To expose him would be to cripple the one force that makes Gotham's survival possible. Damian Wayne is not like the other Robins. He is Bruce Wayne's biological son, raised in secret, and introduced to Gotham as a boy already trained for war. But Damian was not simply born, he was engineered. The League of Assassins and his mother, Talia al Ghul, designed him to be the ultimate successor to Batman. His existence is not the product of chance but of purpose, built from the beginning to surpass Bruce himself. Talia's choice to raise Damian in the League's shadow was not about nurturing a child. It was about shaping a weapon. His DNA alone carried meaning. As the son of Bruce Wayne and the grandson of Ra's al Ghul, Damian represented the merging of two legacies, Gotham's greatest protector and the League's centuries-old dynasty. From birth, he was treated less like a boy and more like an heir, a project intended to create the perfect warrior. From an early age, Damian's training was relentless. He mastered swordplay before most children learned to write. He studied anatomy not as science, but as a tool for disabling or killing opponents. Every strike, every exercise was designed to build him into someone without weakness. Where Bruce learned through years of travel and trial, Damian was force, fed knowledge and discipline, as if his life had no other purpose. He was not raised as a son, he was built as a successor. Imagine Damian at 10 years old, standing in a training hall lined with assassins. He faces opponents twice his size, and defeats them not through raw strength, but through calculation and precision. Each movement reflects the lessons drilled into him since birth. In his mind, he is not a child proving himself. He is the rightful heir to the mantle of the Bat. This belief, instilled by the League, makes him different from the other Robins. Dick Grayson, Jason Todd, and Tim Drake all chose the role. Damian was told from the start that the role belonged to him. This engineering goes beyond skill. Damian's very psychology was shaped for succession. Talia raised him with pride and arrogance, teaching him to see himself as superior. The League molded his identity so that when he met Bruce, he would not simply want to be Batman. He would feel entitled to it. That sense of destiny fuels his confidence and his defiance. It also fuels his conflict with the Bat family, who see the cowl as a symbol to be earned, not a birthright. The irony is that Bruce himself would never want a son built this way. He knows what the mission costs. He never wanted his child to inherit his trauma or obsession. But when Damien entered his life, Bruce had no choice but to accept what Talia had created. He saw both the danger and the potential. With time, Bruce guided Damien away from the League's cruelty and toward a more balanced path. Yet the foundation remains. Damien was made to replace him, to continue the war against crime with even fewer limits. Damian Wayne stands apart from every Robin because he is the one designed for the role. His bloodline, his training, and his upbringing were all engineered to produce the ultimate Batman. The others became partners. Damian was built to be the heir. When Bruce Wayne returned to Gotham after years of training, he stood at a crossroads. He had the skills, the wealth, and the drive to fight crime. But he needed something more. He needed a symbol that would terrify criminals, the way fear once terrified him. The answer came in the form of bats. But in this telling, the bats did not simply appear. They chose him. They sensed the darkness inside Bruce and claimed him as one of their own. The image of Bruce sitting in Wayne Manor as a bat crashes through the window is one of the most iconic moments in his story. To most, it looks like coincidence. A creature of the night breaks into his home, and Bruce takes it as a sign. But bats are not ordinary creatures. They thrive in darkness, navigating where others are blind and living in places where fear lingers. When they swarmed Bruce years earlier, when he fell into the cave as a child, he felt that fear in his bones. That moment carved itself into his memory. Years later, the bats returned to him, not by random chance, but because they recognized something familiar. The bats did not see Bruce as prey. They saw his brokenness, his trauma, his obsession, and they answered it. In nature, bats are drawn to caves, to hidden spaces that echo with silence and shadow. Bruce's soul mirrors that same environment. He is a man who thrives in the dark, who builds his life in secret, and who shapes fear into survival. When the bats swarmed around him, they were not attacking. They were welcoming. They chose him as their reflection. Imagine Bruce standing in the cave for the first time as an adult. The air is cold, the stone wet, and the shadows endless. Suddenly, the bats rise from the depths, wings beating in a storm that surrounds him. Most men would flee. But Bruce does not. He stands firm, and in that moment, he feels something deeper. The bats are not pushing him out. They are embracing him. Their chaos becomes his clarity. They are saying, without words, that he belongs here. This bond explains why Bruce uses the bat as his symbol. He could have chosen any creature to strike fear. A wolf, a panther, even a demon. But the bat came to him because it sensed the same darkness he carried since childhood. By taking their image, Bruce was not only creating a disguise, he was honoring the choice made in that cave, accepting the role the bats gave him. There are moments in Gotham when criminals describe Batman as more than human. They say he appears out of nowhere, gliding like a shadow with wings. In truth, Bruce built his armor and gadgets to mimic the bats, to extend their presence through him. But it goes beyond imitation. The bats chose him, and through Batman, their spirit spreads across the city. Every time the cape opens and criminals see the silhouette of wings, they feel the same primal fear that Bruce once felt in the cave. The bats did not simply give him a symbol. They gave him belonging. In their eyes, he was one of them, a creature born of fear, shaped by darkness, and destined to live in the shadows. Batman is known for preparation. He studies his enemies, his allies, and even himself. Nothing is left to chance. One of the clearest examples of this is his stockpile of kryptonite. Most people believe he keeps it only as a safeguard against Superman, a way to level the field if the most powerful being on Earth ever turned against humanity. But Bruce Wayne's paranoia runs deeper than that. He keeps kryptonite not just for Superman, but for others who might one day need to be stopped. Kryptonite is more than a weakness. It is a weapon that affects Kryptonians in ways few others can resist. Superman is the most obvious target, but he is not the only one. Supergirl, Power Girl, General Zod, and any Kryptonian who sets foot on Earth carries the same vulnerability. Batman understands that while Clark Kent may be trustworthy, not every Kryptonian will be. If another from their world arrives with hostile intent, Gotham and even the Justice League would rely on him to act. His fragments of kryptonite are not aimed at a friend. They are aimed at the possibility of a future enemy. Imagine a scenario where Superman is off, World and Zod escapes from the Phantom Zone. The military panics, and the League is unprepared. Batman would already have the answer, deep in the Batcave, or hidden in lead. Lined caches around Gotham, he keeps fragments ready to be weaponized. Arrows tipped with kryptonite, smoke grenades laced with dust. Even blades that can pierce invulnerable skin. He has designed every possible method of delivery. Not because he wants to use them, but because one day he might have to. This foresight extends beyond Kryptonians. Batman studies every metahuman who crosses his path. Many are vulnerable to the same tools that stop Superman. A shard of kryptonite in the wrong hands could destabilize entire battles. In Batman's hands, it is precision. He prepares doses and methods that can weaken without killing, because his goal is control, not slaughter. Yet the implication is clear: he will use it against anyone if the situation demands it. Even Superman himself knows about the fragments. In some versions of their story, he gives Bruce a piece willingly, trusting him to be the fail-safe. No one else can be. But Superman also knows Bruce would have found it regardless. Trust or not, Batman does not rely on permission to protect the world. He keeps the green rock secured in places no one else can access. It is not a trophy, it is insurance. Consider how this weighs on Bruce personally. He does not enjoy keeping kryptonite. To him, it represents the possibility of betrayal or invasion. Every time he looks at it, he sees the cost of being prepared. But he also knows Gotham and the world depend on his paranoia. If the day comes when Kryptonians stand against humanity, he cannot afford hesitation. The fragments are more than a weapon against Superman. They are part of Batman's philosophy. No one, not even the strongest, is above accountability. Every ally, every godlike figure, every unstoppable force must have a weakness that can be used if the balance breaks. That is why the kryptonite stays, locked away but never out of reach. The Wayne family name stands for wealth, charity, and progress. For generations, Gotham has seen the Waynes as its greatest benefactors. Thomas and Martha Wayne died as symbols of innocence, their murder sparking the crusade that created Batman. But history is rarely clean, and the Wayne family's past carries shadows of its own. Behind the philanthropy lies a darker legacy, one tied to Gotham's corruption and blood. Gotham has always been a city built on power. Its wealth comes from industry, land, and old money. Families like the Waynes, the Kanes, and the Elliots built their empires during the city's rise. But no fortune in Gotham came without compromise. The Waynes funded railroads, factories, and hospitals, but they also dealt with politicians who were already corrupt and business partners who thrived on exploitation. Their wealth allowed them to rise above the dirt, but the dirt was always there. Some stories suggest the Wayne fortune was linked directly to Gotham's criminal foundations. In certain versions of the city's history, the Waynes acquired land for development by driving out working families. Others whisper that the family turned a blind eye to smuggling and organized crime that kept Gotham's economy alive. These choices may not have been outright villainy, but they reveal a family willing to profit in a city that was already rotting from within. The Court of Owls, Gotham's secret society, represents the darkest version of this history. According to their legend, the court manipulated Gotham for centuries, using wealthy families as pawns in their games of power. The Waynes appear in their history more than once. Sometimes as enemies, sometimes as unwilling participants, and sometimes as quiet partners who pretended not to see the blood spilled to keep the city under control. If this is true, then Bruce's family was never as clean as he believes. They were part of the cycle that kept Gotham broken long before Batman was born. Imagine a young Bruce discovering records in the foundation of Wayne Manor. Old contracts signed by ancestors, linking his family to construction projects built on prison labor or payments made to politicians who turned a blind eye to crime. To the public, these projects looked like progress. To Gotham's underworld, they were evidence of the same corruption that fed every generation. Bruce would carry not just the burden of his parents' deaths, but the shame of knowing the Wayne fortune was never spotless. Even Thomas Wayne, often portrayed as a man of pure ideals, may not have been untouched. Some versions suggest he made deals with mob bosses to keep hospitals funded. Others show him as a doctor who used influence to secure land and power for the family name. Whether these actions were justified or not, they reveal a man willing to compromise. For Bruce, who idolizes his parents, that truth would cut deeper than any villain's blow. The darker past of the Wayne family does not erase their acts of good, but it adds weight to Batman's mission. He is not just fighting to save Gotham from criminals. He is fighting to redeem his family name, to prove that a legacy born in corruption can end in justice. Every time he dons the cowl, he carries not only his parents' memory, but the sins of generations buried in Gotham's foundations. Batman has no super strength, no ability to fly, and no godlike powers. What he has is discipline, sharpened to its peak. His mind is the greatest weapon he carries, and he has trained it to a level where even psychic powers struggle to break through. In a world filled with telepaths who can bend thoughts or rewrite memories, Bruce Wayne stands as one of the few who can resist them. His training began the same way as his physical skills. Bruce traveled the world, seeking teachers who could test him in every way. Monks taught him meditation techniques that slowed his breathing and heart rate, until he could control even the smallest functions of his body. Psychologists and mystics showed him how to build mental barriers, visualizing walls and mazes that would trap or confuse anyone who tried to enter his thoughts. He combined these lessons into something unique, creating defenses that most humans could never even attempt. Imagine a psychic like Martian Manhunter reaching into Batman's mind. For most people, the process is instant. Thoughts spill out, memories surface, and secrets are laid bare. He has built layers of control, burying his true thoughts under false ones, scattering memories behind walls of iron discipline. A telepath may see an image of Bruce standing unmasked, only to find that the image dissolves into nothing, a decoy planted to waste their effort. Even when pain or fear rises, Bruce can compartmentalize, locking feelings away so they cannot be used against him. This resistance does not mean he is immune. Powerful psychics can still push through with enough strength. But Batman does not need to be invulnerable. He only needs to be difficult. Every second a telepath struggles against his defenses is a second Bruce uses to counterattack, escape, or plan. His mind is a battlefield he controls as carefully as the streets of Gotham. There are times when this discipline has saved not only himself, but his allies. When villains like Scarecrow, Dr. Destiny, or even alien telepaths attack, Bruce stands as a shield. While others collapse under visions or forced illusions, he holds steady, guiding his team back to focus. The League relies on him not just for strategy, but for stability when minds are under siege. His resistance proves that willpower can rival even superhuman gifts. Consider a scenario where a telepath tries to force Bruce to relive the night his parents were killed. For most, the trauma would overwhelm. But Bruce has faced that memory so many times that he can control it. He can let the scene play out without losing himself to despair, even turning the memory against the invader, where another would break. Bruce uses the pain as a weapon, showing the intruder that his mind is not weakness but armor. His mental training extends beyond psychic attacks. It allows him to resist drugs, hypnosis, and even magical influences. Where others bend, he endures. His body may be mortal, but his mind operates at a level where even the extraordinary finds resistance. For Batman, this is not luck or innate power. It is the result of relentless training, a lifetime of mastering fear and pain, until his own thoughts are unshakable. Batman built his life on discipline and sacrifice. Bruce Wayne buried his own happiness to keep Gotham alive. He cut himself off from love, friendship, and family because he believed the mission demanded it. Over time, the mask of Batman consumed almost everything that made him human. But there is one person who keeps that part of him alive: Selina Kyle. Catwoman is not just a thief or an ally. She is the one who reminds Bruce that he is more than the Bat, more than the mission, and more than a man lost to endless war. Their bond is complicated. Selina does not fit neatly into Bruce's world. She steals, she bends the law, and she acts on her own terms, yet this is what draws him to her. In a life defined by strict rules, she offers unpredictability. Where Bruce chooses control, Selina chooses freedom. When they are together, Bruce sees a reflection of what he could never be. Someone who moves through Gotham without the crushing weight of responsibility. She gives him moments where he is not Batman, not even Bruce Wayne, but simply a man allowed to feel. Imagine a night after patrol when Bruce returns to the cave bruised and silent. Alfred tends to his wounds with quiet concern, but his words cannot reach the part of Bruce that is slipping further into obsession. Selina arrives, not with sympathy, but with a sharp remark about his stubbornness. She teases him, challenges him, even mocks the mask he hides behind. Most people would not dare, but Bruce lets her. More than that, he needs her to. Her voice cuts through the silence and pulls him back to reality. Selina understands him in ways others cannot. The Robins, Alfred, and even members of the Justice League see Bruce as a leader, a general, or a symbol. Selina sees the man who stands alone in the dark. She knows his anger, his fear, and his loneliness because she carries her own. She grew up in Gotham's streets, surviving through instinct and wit. Her trauma shaped her the way Bruce's did him. Together, they find common ground not in perfection, but in brokenness. There are times when Bruce teeters on the edge of losing himself completely, after Jason Todd's death, after Bane's crushing defeat, or after countless nights when Gotham offers no hope. Bruce could sink into despair. Selina becomes the tether. She reminds him that he is still alive, still capable of more than punishment. She forces him to laugh, to rest, or simply to stop running from his own humanity. Without her, he risks becoming nothing but the mask, a hollow figure of vengeance with no soul left inside. What makes her role unique is that she does not try to change him. Selina does not demand that Bruce abandon the mission. She accepts Batman, flaws and all, and finds her place beside him. In turn, Bruce lets her past go in a way he never could with others. He does not judge her for stealing, for living outside the law. He respects her independence, even when it clashes with his code. This acceptance is what binds them. For a man who has built walls higher than Gotham's skyline, Selina Kyle is the breach, She slips past his defenses not with force, but with understanding. She is the reminder that Bruce Wayne is still human, still capable of connection, and still alive beyond the cape and cowl. Bruce Wayne has thought about retirement. He knows the years take their toll, and every night on the streets adds another scar. But the truth is simple. If Batman stepped away, Gotham would collapse within months. The city does not survive on its own. It survives because of him, because of the fear he puts into criminals, and the balance he keeps in a place that refuses to heal. Gotham is not like other cities. Its crime is not just gangs and thieves. It is built on corruption, organized crime, and supervillains who thrive in chaos. The police department is riddled with officials who look the other way. The courts bend under pressure from mob money. Without Batman, that system would tighten its grip again. Figures like Carmine Falcone's heirs or new players in the underworld would rise quickly. Within weeks, street-level thugs would realize that no one was watching from the rooftops. Small crimes would swell, and Gotham's fragile order would fracture. The villains would be the next wave. Men like the Penguin, the Riddler, or Black Mask build their empires cautiously when Batman is present. They know one mistake will bring him crashing into their operations. Without him, they would move faster. They would carve up the city like territory in a war zone. Each would claim pieces of Gotham until it became a battleground. The Joker, who lives for conflict with Batman, might vanish or turn his focus on tearing the city apart in the Bat's absence. Either way, Gotham would pay the price. Even the Justice League could not save Gotham from collapse. Superman can stop alien invasions. Wonder Woman can fight gods, but neither of them understands Gotham the way Bruce does. Gotham is a different kind of battlefield. It is not only fists and weapons, it is psychology. Criminals do not just fear Batman's strength. They fear the idea of him. They fear the chance that he is always watching. Without that fear, they grow bold. Superman's presence might scare them, but it would not last. The criminals would adapt, because Superman is not a creature of Gotham. Only Batman knows its rhythm. Imagine Bruce stepping away. Months pass, and a string of robberies grows into a wave. Police scramble to respond, but lack the resources. Then the mob moves in, controlling neighborhoods through money and intimidation. Soon after, the first major villain strikes, Scarecrow unleashing Toxin or Bane rallying gangs. The city would spiral, each level of crime feeding the next, until Gotham became unrecognizable. The collapse would not take years, it would take months. Bruce understands this better than anyone. That is why he refuses to retire. Even when his body breaks under the strain, he has trained successors, Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, but each time he steps back, Gotham falters. Nightwing shines in BL Fadehaven, but Gotham consumes anyone who tries to replace Batman. It is not just about wearing the cowl, it is about the myth, the presence, the legacy that only Bruce can project. This is the curse of the Dark Knight. Bruce could retire, but he knows the city cannot stand without him. Gotham is too fragile, too corrupted, and too addicted to the balance he brings. For as long as he breathes, he carries the weight, because he knows what comes if he does not. Batman lives by rules he carved into himself like stone. The most important is his refusal to kill. That vow separates him from the criminals he fights. But rules this rigid create pressure, and pressure always seeks release. In many ways, the Joker is that release. He represents Bruce's repressed desire to break his own code, to cast aside discipline and surrender to the chaos. He resists every night. Bruce has built his life around control. Every movement, every word, every strike in battle is calculated. But control is not the absence of rage, it is the containment of it. Inside him lives the same fury that was born in Crime Alley, the night his parents were murdered. He never let it go. Instead, he buried it beneath vows and training. The Joker knows this more than any other villain. He understands that Batman is not calm justice, but violence held back by chains. His entire existence is aimed at breaking those chains. Consider the Joker's crimes. They are not about money or territory. He poisons children, he murders innocents, he destroys lives in ways that feel senseless. Each act is designed to provoke Batman, to make him snap. When Bruce clenches his fists at the sight of another massacre, when his jaw tightens at the sound of Joker's laugh, he feels the temptation, the urge to end it forever. That temptation is the Joker's true weapon. The clown represents everything Bruce will not admit to himself. Deep down, there is a part of him that wants to kill. Not just the Joker, but every murderer who walks free, every rapist, every corrupt official who buys their way out of punishment. Batman could end them all in a single night, and Gotham would change forever. But Bruce forces himself to believe that killing makes him no better than them. The Joker becomes the living test of that belief. Every encounter is a battle not only of fists, but of restraint. Imagine Batman standing over the Joker after one of his rampages. The clown is bleeding, helpless, laughing through broken teeth. Bruce's hand hovers, ready to strike the final blow in that moment. He feels the weight of his desire pressing hard against the rule he swore to uphold. He wants to kill him. He wants to silence the laughter once and for all, but he stops. He pulls back. And yet, in stopping, he proves that the desire is always there. The Joker exists as the external face of that inner darkness. This is why their relationship never ends. If Batman killed the Joker, he would prove that his own rules can be broken. If he never faced the Joker, he might forget the urge exists. By keeping the clown alive, Bruce constantly tests himself, reminding himself of what waits inside. It is not mercy that spares the Joker, it is necessity. Batman needs him as the mirror that reflects his worst impulses, the shadow of the man he could become if he let go. The Joker is chaos, but not chaos alone. He is Bruce's hidden hunger for freedom from the code. He is the laugh that mocks the discipline, the blood-stained reflection of the rage Bruce has carried since childhood. Every time Batman spares him, it is not only Gotham that survives, it is Bruce himself, holding back the part of him that wants to break the rules and never return. Bane is known for his strength, but his power is not natural. His body is fueled by venom, a formula that enhances his muscles and makes him into something more than human. Most assume venom came from years of prison experiments or secret labs hidden far from Gotham. But the truth may cut closer to home. Bane's formula may have been inspired by research tied to Wayne Tech, the very company Bruce Wayne controls. Wayne Enterprises funds a wide range of projects. Publicly, the company builds hospitals, supports green energy, and invests in medical technologies. Privately, its research divisions push into areas that toe the line between progress and danger. Military contracts demand armor, weapons, and biological enhancements. These projects are often shelved before they reach the public, written off as failures or deemed too unstable. Yet once ideas leave the lab, they rarely disappear. Prototypes, stolen files, or rogue scientists can take abandoned work and twist it into something darker. The connection to Venom begins with Wayne Tech's work on performance enhancement. Soldiers in combat need to fight longer, recover faster, and endure wounds that would disable ordinary men. Wayne Tech scientists may have experimented with chemical compounds designed to increase muscle strength and reduce fatigue. On paper, these projects look like harmless attempts to save lives in war zones. In practice, they open the door to a formula like Venom, a drug that amplifies strength but destroys the body with addiction and rage. Imagine a scientist dismissed from Wayne Tech after a project failed to meet safety standards. They leave the company, but they take fragments of research with them. In the black market of Gotham, those fragments can be sold, stolen, or traded until they fall into the hands of groups experimenting with human test subjects. Over time, these scraps of data become the blueprint for Venom. When Bane finally emerges, his formula bears the fingerprints of technology that once began in Bruce Wayne's company. For Bruce, this possibility is haunting. Batman fights Bane with his fists, but Bruce Wayne may have armed him years earlier without knowing it. The thought that Wayne Tech's pursuit of progress helped create one of Gotham's most dangerous villains is a weight he cannot ignore. It explains why he keeps such tight control over the company, installing Lucius Fox to monitor every project and shut down anything that risks crossing ethical lines. The link between Venom and Wayne Tech also explains why Bane feels like such a personal enemy. He is not just another strongman with a mask. He represents the consequences of Gotham's corruption bleeding into science, of progress turned into violence. Bane's reliance on Venom mirrors Bruce's own reliance on technology. One uses enhancements to destroy, the other to protect. In both cases, Wayne Enterprises is the silent architect in the background. Venom is brutal, unstable, and deadly. But it may have started as an echo of Wayne Tech ambition. Bane turned it into his greatest weapon, and Gotham has paid the price ever since. For Batman, facing Bane is not only a battle of strength, it is also a confrontation with the hidden shadows of his own company's past. Arkham Asylum is known as the place where Gotham's broken minds are kept. It houses the Joker, Scarecrow, Poison Ivy, and dozens of others who seem beyond saving. People often point to the asylum's poor management, or its revolving door of escapes as proof that it fails, but the failures go deeper than weak security or corrupt doctors. Arkham itself may be doomed from the start, because the land it stands on is cursed. The Arkham family history is full of tragedy. Amadeus Arkham, the asylum's founder, built the institution after his mother's death, and later the murder of his wife and daughter. His dream was to heal Gotham's most disturbed minds. But he chose to build on land tied to violence long before his own suffering. The ground where Arkham stands has always carried whispers of blood and madness. Some versions of the story say the land was once a site where Gotham's earliest settlers executed criminals in public. Others claim it was burial ground for a forgotten tribe, their spirits restless beneath the stone walls. This cursed foundation seems to echo through every corner of the asylum. Patients rarely recover. Doctors often lose themselves to obsession or corruption. Guards descend into cruelty or indifference. Even the building itself feels oppressive, as though the walls trap not just criminals, but the sanity of anyone who enters. It is no coincidence that Gotham's worst villains return again and again, not just to escape, but to relapse into deeper insanity. Arkham does not cure, it consumes. Imagine a new doctor arriving at Arkham, full of hope and determination. At first, they believe they can help someone like Victor Zazaz or Jervis Tetch. But as weeks pass, their optimism fades. The screams in the halls never stop. The structure creaks at night. Their colleagues speak in whispers about strange accidents and patients whose files never tell the whole story. Soon the doctor begins to dream of the inmates, of laughter echoing through the dark, of shadows moving in the corners of their mind. Within months, they are burned out, corrupted or worse, drawn into the same madness they came to treat. The asylum swallows them like it has swallowed so many others. For Batman, Arkham is more than a prison. It is a symbol of Gotham's curse. He captures villains and sends them there, knowing they will escape, knowing they will return worse than before. The cycle continues. Not just because of weak security, but because the asylum itself seems to invite chaos. It is as if Arkham feeds Gotham's darkness, amplifying it, ensuring that crime never truly dies. Bruce may fight on the streets, but deep down he knows there is something in Arkham that resists order. The cursed ground theory explains why Arkham's influence extends beyond its walls. Villains who escape carry its madness back into the city. Stories of hauntings spread among staff, making the asylum a place of fear even to those who never set foot inside. For Gotham, Arkham is not just a building. It is a wound that never heals, rooted in cursed soil, bleeding madness into the streets. Batman is often called the world's greatest detective, but that title is not just a nickname. In DC canon, his skills surpass even Sherlock Holmes, the legendary figure many consider the standard of deductive reasoning. The comparison is not casual. Holmes is fiction's greatest detective, built on logic, sharp observation, and knowledge of human behavior. Yet within the DC universe, Batman not only matches these qualities, but expands them with discipline, training, and experience that reach far beyond Holmes' methods. Bruce Wayne's detective work begins with observation. Like Holmes, he can spot details others miss: the scuff of a shoe, the angle of a broken window, the smell of a chemical in the air. But where Holmes relies on Victorian science and deduction, Batman has mastered disciplines from across the world. He has trained with forensic experts, criminologists, and even magicians who understand deception at its core. He does not just observe, he reconstructs events with precision, often in seconds. A crime scene becomes a story that plays out in his mind, with each clue a chapter. Consider a murder investigation. Holmes might analyze footprints and deduce the height of the suspect. Batman takes the same footprint and calculates weight distribution, stride length, and stress marks to determine not only height, but whether the suspect carried a weapon, limped from an old injury, or panicked when leaving the scene. He layers psychology on top of evidence, building profiles that match suspects before the police even begin questioning. His use of technology sharpens this process further. Where Holmes used magnifying glasses and chemical tests, Batman uses advanced scanners, databases, and algorithms. He created himself. What sets him apart is not just knowledge, but how he applies it under pressure. Holmes often solved cases from the comfort of his study. Batman works in the field, surrounded by danger. He applies deduction while dodging bullets or interrogating criminals who would rather die than speak. This ability to think under constant threat makes him unique. His detective work is not theoretical, it is survival. He solves crimes while ensuring the city does not collapse in the process. Even characters within DC canon recognize his superiority. Ra's al Ghul, a man who has lived for centuries, calls Batman detective, as both a title and a sign of respect. The Justice League, filled with gods and aliens, defers to his investigative judgment when threats emerge. When faced with mysteries too complex for science alone, Superman and Wonder Woman turn to Bruce. He is not the strongest or the fastest, but his ability to uncover truth makes him indispensable. One of the clearest demonstrations of this comes in crossovers where Batman faces Holmes's legend directly. In some stories, he studies Holmes' methods and finds them brilliant, but limited by their time, where Holmes deduced the habits of London society. Batman applies deduction to metahumans, aliens, and magic. He takes the foundation Holmes built and expands it to meet challenges the original detective could never imagine. Imagine Batman tracking a killer who can shapeshift. Evidence shifts and witnesses contradict themselves. Holmes might stumble, limited by physical fact. Batman adapts, questioning the psychology of a creature with no stable identity. He anticipates how a shapeshifter thinks, what it desires, and where it would strike next. His conclusion does not just rest on observation, but on an understanding of fear, motive, and opportunity that comes from decades of living in Gotham's madness. In the DC universe, Sherlock Holmes remains a symbol of reason, but Batman surpasses him because he combines intellect with experience, training, and a relentless will to uncover the truth. His detective skills are not an art or a hobby. They are a weapon as sharp as any batarang, forged to keep Gotham alive. Bruce Wayne's life is defined by tragedy. The murder of Thomas and Martha Wayne is the moment that created Batman. Yet, as heavy as that loss was, the death of Jason Todd cut him even deeper. Losing Jason was not the beginning of his story. It happened after years of training. After Bruce had sworn never to let another child suffer the way he had. His parents' deaths shaped him, but Jason's death haunts him in ways that never fade, because it was the one he believes he could have prevented. When Bruce lost his parents, he was powerless. He was a boy watching helplessly as crime stole everything from him. There was no decision he could have made differently, no action he could have taken to stop the gunman in Crime Alley. That helplessness stayed with him, but it became the fuel for Batman. Jason Todd's death, however, was different. Jason was not his father or mother. He was his partner, his responsibility. Bruce trained him, armed him, and put him in harm's way. When the Joker killed Jason, Bruce could not escape the truth. He had failed someone who depended on him. Jason was reckless, angry, and often pushed boundaries Bruce set, but he was also a boy who needed guidance. Someone who saw Batman not just as a mentor, but as family. Bruce knew the risks of bringing him into the war against crime, but he believed he could protect him through discipline and training. That belief shattered when he found Jason's body in the rubble of the warehouse. The Joker had not just killed a Robin. He had broken Batman in a way no villain ever had before. The difference between the two losses is in the weight of guilt. Bruce never blamed himself for his parents' deaths. He blamed Gotham and its criminals. But Jason's death sits squarely on his shoulders. He wonders if he ignored Jason's warning signs, if he pushed him too far, or if his mission itself is cursed to destroy anyone who stands beside him. These questions torment him in silence, and no amount of victories can erase them. Imagine Bruce on patrol years later, seeing a boy stealing on the streets. He remembers Jason's defiance, the same fire that made him take risks. In that moment, Bruce feels the ache again, sharper than the memory of his parents' final breaths. He does not just see a lost child. He sees Jason, and he remembers the sound of the Joker's laughter echoing in the warehouse. That is why Jason's death lingers more than any other tragedy. It was not the crime that Gotham forced upon him. It was the failure of Batman himself. Batman's war on crime depends on preparation. He does not fight on instinct alone. He studies his enemies, learns their habits, and breaks them down until he knows exactly how to stop them. This is why he keeps secret files on every villain in Gotham, as well as many outside the city. These files are more than lists of crimes. They are detailed records of weaknesses, psychological, physical, and environmental, that Batman can use the moment a confrontation begins. Each file is built through years of observation. When the Riddler leaves clues behind, Batman doesn't just solve them, he records patterns in Edward Nygma's behavior, noting how he reacts when ignored, or how his compulsion to prove his intelligence leaves him vulnerable to traps. When dealing with the Penguin, Batman studies his reliance on legitimate businesses as cover for criminal operations, documenting which fronts can be dismantled with financial pressure. Even someone as unpredictable as the Joker has files that outline his chemical preferences, likely hideouts, and the kinds of victims he targets most often. Imagine a scenario where Killer Croc escapes into the sewers. To the police, the labyrinth beneath Gotham is impossible to track, but Batman already has maps with Croc's preferred nesting areas, along with notes on his feeding patterns and the environmental triggers that calm or enrage him. With this information, Batman can move ahead of Croc instead of chasing him blindly. These files give him the edge that no one else has. The files are not limited to physical weaknesses. Batman digs into psychology, which often proves more powerful than brute force. Scarecrow's fear toxin terrifies most people. But Batman has documented Crane's own fear of failure as a scientist, a pressure point that can be used against him. 2. Face is obsessed with duality and chance, but Bruce records the moments when Harvey Dent, the man underneath, still surfaces. Those moments can make him hesitate. These insights matter as much as weapons. The files extend beyond Gotham's borders. Batman has contingency plans for metahumans, heroes, and even his own allies. In the same way he studies villains, he compiles data on the Justice League. He believes no one, no matter how noble, is above losing control. To Batman, trust does not erase the need for preparation. Keeping these files is not without risk. If they ever fall into the wrong hands, every villain would know what Batman knows, and every ally would see how little he truly trusts them. Yet Bruce accepts that risk because the cost of being unprepared is greater. In his mind, foreknowledge saves lives. His records are not trophies. They are weapons of a different kind, ready to be used when Gotham faces threats no one else can stop. Batman and the Joker have fought each other for years, but their conflict feels different from any other hero and villain struggle. It is not just about crime or justice. It is about two men locked in a cycle that neither can escape. In Gotham's story, they are bound by fate. Neither can truly die while the other lives. Their existence is tied together, as if the city itself demands that they keep facing one another. The Joker thrives on Batman's presence. Without him, his crimes lose meaning. Most criminals want money, power, or control. But the Joker wants an audience. Batman is the only one who understands his performance, the only one who plays the game at the level the Joker craves. If Batman died, the Joker would lose purpose. In some versions of the story, he even admits this, saying he would have no reason to go on. His laughter depends on Batman being there to hear it. Batman, in turn, is shaped by the Joker. Every rule he follows, especially his vow never to kill, is tested most by the clown. Other criminals can be locked away, but the Joker always returns, forcing Bruce to confront his limits. If Joker were gone, Bruce might no longer need to test himself so constantly. He might lose the edge that defines him. For a man who survives on discipline, the Joker is the constant reminder of why the rules must remain. In that way, Bruce needs him, even if he refuses to admit it. Imagine a night where Batman defeats the Joker once again. The clown is beaten, barely breathing, but still laughing. The police ask why Bruce doesn't end it. He could strike one more time and close the chapter forever. But he doesn't deep down. He knows ending the Joker would end part of himself. Their lives are intertwined, each one giving meaning to the other's mission. The idea of fate binding them is shown in how often they survive impossible situations. The Joker falls from buildings, is caught in explosions, and is left for dead countless times, but always returns. Batman, too, escapes injuries that should have ended him. It feels as though Gotham itself refuses to let either of them die until the other is gone as well. Their story is not about victory or defeat. It is about balance, maintained by conflict. When Batman looks at the Joker, he sees what he could become if he let go of control. When Joker looks at Batman, he sees the only man who makes life worth living together. They form two sides of the same coin, bound not by choice, but by inevitability. Neither will fall until both do, because their existence is not separate. It is one endless battle written into the heart of Gotham. Gotham is a city where nothing ever truly changes. Batman defeats villains, locks them away, and restores order. Yet within weeks or months, chaos returns. The Joker escapes, Two-Face plots again, Bane rises from defeat, and the cycle begins all over. This pattern is so constant that it feels less like coincidence and more like design. Gotham seems trapped in a time loop, one that resets itself after every collapse, as if the city refuses to stay healed. The cycle is easy to see when you look closely. A villain strikes, Gotham suffers, Batman rises to meet the threat, and order is restored. But the victory never lasts. Arkham Asylum cannot hold its inmates, the police cannot control the streets, and even Batman's best efforts only buy time. The city resets to a fragile peace, waiting for the next eruption. It is not progress, it is repetition. Gotham does not move forward, it circles back to where it started. This sense of a loop gives Gotham a haunted quality. Imagine Bruce finally capturing the Joker after another massacre. The clown sits in his cell. Citizens breathe easier. Yet, deep down, everyone knows it will not last. The laughter will return, the cell will open, and the city will face another storm. It is as if Gotham cannot exist without its villains, as if their presence is stitched into its foundations. Even the citizens of Gotham act as though the city resets. Corruption is exposed in the police force. Reforms begin, but within months another scandal erupts. A new mayor rises promising change, only to fall into the same traps of bribery and intimidation. Ordinary people accept this as normal. They fear the darkness, but live with it, expecting every improvement to vanish. Their resignation feeds the loop, because no one truly believes Gotham can escape its curse. For Batman, this endless cycle is both his purpose and his torment. Each night, he throws himself into the fight believing he can save the city. Yet in quiet moments, he must see the pattern. No matter how many times he wins, Gotham never heals. It is like trying to hold back the tide with his hands. Still, he refuses to stop. The mission consumes him because he believes even temporary victories matter. But the loop ensures he can never rest. The theory of Gotham as a time loop also explains why its villains are so extreme. Ordinary criminals exist in every city, but Gotham breeds monsters. These figures rise and fall like clockwork, each one pushing the city to the brink, then vanishing back into the cycle. Arkham Asylum acts like the reset button. Each escape renews the pattern, returning Gotham to the start of its endless game. In this way, Gotham is not just a backdrop, it is an active force, bending time around itself to ensure chaos survives. The city cannot allow peace, because peace would break the cycle. Instead, it resets after every battle, trapping Batman, his allies, and his enemies in an eternal loop. Gotham does not move forward. It repeats itself over and over, feeding on its own chaos. Batman's war on crime depends on more than skill and discipline. It depends on money. Bruce Wayne's fortune funds every part of his mission, from the armor he wears to the satellites that scan Gotham's streets, the Batmobile, the Batcave, the gadgets strapped to his belt. None of these exist without Wayne money. But fortunes do not last forever. Companies rise and fall, markets crash, and wealth can vanish in a single generation. If Batman's fortune ever runs out, Gotham would be left exposed in ways most people never think about. Wayne Enterprises is one of the largest companies in the world. Its profits fuel not only Gotham's economy, but also Bruce's hidden war. Lucius Fox channels resources into R&D divisions that quietly create technology for the Batcave. A military drone prototype becomes a new surveillance tool. An abandoned armor project becomes part of the Batsuit. These projects cost millions, and the secrecy around them requires even more money to cover the trails. Without the endless stream of capital, Batman could not maintain his arsenal. Imagine Gotham after a financial collapse. Wayne Enterprises suffers a hostile takeover or loses billions in a market crash. Suddenly, Bruce no longer has the budget to repair the Batmobile after a chase with Bane. His network of safe houses falls silent because he can't afford to stock them. Even the Bat signal above police headquarters might fail if the city no longer trusts Wayne money to back its upkeep. Batman could still fight with his fists, but his edge has never been fists alone. His fortune is what lets him stand against metahumans, armies, and supervillains who use resources of their own. The villains would know immediately. The Penguin, who thrives on financial information, would spread word of Wayne's fall. Black Mask would use his criminal empire to take advantage of Gotham's weakened protector. Even the Joker would sense the shift, mocking Batman for being stripped of the toys that made him more than a man. In a matter of weeks, Gotham's underworld would swell, testing whether Batman could survive without the wealth that kept him untouchable. Bruce himself would face the hardest truth. For years, he has believed that his mind and body are his greatest weapons. But even he knows his mission has leaned on money at every step. He does not just need armor, he needs the factories that build it. He does not just need intelligence, he needs the satellites that feed him information. He could fight without them, but only for so long. The war in Gotham is not a street fight. It is a battle against systems of crime, corruption, and power that require resources to dismantle. The thought of his fortune running out explains why Bruce guards Wayne Enterprises so carefully. He spends as much time keeping the company alive as he does fighting crime, because he knows the two are the same. If Wayne money disappears, Batman disappears with it. And Gotham is left to face its demons without the one force that holds them back. Batman and Superman are often shown as opposites. One is a man who hides in the shadows, armed with fear and strategy. The other is a godlike figure who soars in the light, trusted and loved by the world. Their differences fuel arguments, and Bruce Wayne often criticizes Clark Kent's approach to justice. Yet beneath the sharp words and constant suspicion, Bruce secretly admires Superman. He would never admit it aloud. But the respect is there, hidden behind layers of pride and control. Bruce admires Superman's strength, but not in the obvious sense. It is not the ability to lift buildings or stop bullets that he envies. It is Clark's ability to carry such power without abusing it. For a man like Bruce, who fights daily to keep his anger and grief from consuming him, the idea of having limitless power would be terrifying. He knows he would struggle with restraint. Superman never seems to. He lives with the weight of godlike strength, but uses it with care. To Bruce, that discipline is something worth respecting, even if he frames it as naivety when they argue. He also admires the hope Superman inspires. Gotham knows Batman as a figure of fear. Citizens may be grateful, but they do not look to him for comfort. Superman, on the other hand, stands as a symbol that humanity can trust. He speaks to people in daylight, rescues them with a smile, and leaves them with hope, rather than dread. Deep down, Bruce knows he could never be that figure. His presence frightens criminals and unnerves even the innocent. Watching Superman prove that a hero can uplift rather than terrify is something Bruce quietly respects, even if he claims otherwise. Imagine the two of them after a battle, standing side by side as the dust settles. Superman thanks him for his strategy, his ability to see the details no one else caught. Bruce nods, but offers no praise in return. Later, when he is alone in the Batcave, he replays the moment in his mind and acknowledges the truth to himself. Clark's strength and spirit kept lives safe in ways Batman never could. It is not envy. It is recognition of qualities he values, but knows he cannot embody. This hidden admiration is why Batman keeps kryptonite close. Outsiders think he carries it out of distrust, and in part that is true, but it is also respect. He understands Superman is so powerful that there must be balance. The failsafe exists not because he doubts Clark's heart, but because he acknowledges how important Clark is. He prepares for the worst because he cannot bear the thought of Superman falling from grace. That level of preparation is, in its own way, an admission of how much Clark matters to him. Bruce Wayne will never put this into words. His pride and his guarded nature will not allow it. But through his actions, the trust he places in Superman during battles, the way he relies on him in the Justice League, and the lengths he goes to ensure Clark's power is kept in check. His admiration shows he sees in Superman not just a partner, but an ideal. And though he would deny it to everyone, even to himself, he knows he is stronger for having Clark at his side. Bruce Wayne has thought about retirement. He knows the years take their toll, and every night on the streets adds another scar. But the truth is simple. If Batman stepped away, Gotham would collapse within months. The city does not survive on its own. It survives because of him, because of the fear he puts into criminals, and the balance he keeps in a place that refuses to heal. Gotham is not like other cities. Its crime is not just gangs and thieves. It is built on corruption, organized crime, and supervillains who thrive in chaos. The police department is riddled with officials who look the other way. The courts bend under pressure from mob money. Without Batman, that system would tighten its grip again. Figures like Carmine Falcone's heirs or new players in the underworld would rise quickly. Within weeks, street-level thugs would realize that no one was watching from the rooftops. Small crimes would swell, and Gotham's fragile order would fracture. The villains would be the next wave. Men like the Penguin, the Riddler, or Black Mask build their empires cautiously when Batman is present. They know one mistake will bring him crashing into their operations. Without him, they would move faster. They would carve up the city like territory in a war zone. Each would claim pieces of Gotham until it became a battleground. The Joker, who lives for conflict with Batman, might vanish or turn his focus on tearing the city apart in the Bat's absence. Either way, Gotham would pay the price. Even the Justice League could not save Gotham from collapse. Superman can stop alien invasions. Wonder Woman can fight gods, but neither of them understands Gotham the way Bruce does. Gotham is a different kind of battlefield. It is not only fists and weapons, it is psychology. Criminals do not just fear Batman's strength. They fear the idea of him. They fear the chance that he is always watching. Without that fear, they grow bold. Superman's presence might scare them, but it would not last. The criminals would adapt, because Superman is not a creature of Gotham. Only Batman knows its rhythm. Imagine Bruce stepping away. Months pass, and a string of robberies grows into a wave. Police scramble to respond, but lack the resources. Then the mob moves in, controlling neighborhoods through money and intimidation. Soon after, the first major villain strikes, Scarecrow unleashing Toxin, or Bane rallying gangs. The city would spiral. Each level of crime feeding the next, until Gotham became unrecognizable. The collapse would not take years, it would take months. Bruce understands this better than anyone. That is why he refuses to retire. Even when his body breaks under the strain, he has trained successors, Dick Grayson, Tim Drake, Damian Wayne, but each time he steps back, Gotham falters. Nightwing shines in BL Fadehaven, but Gotham consumes anyone who tries to replace Batman. It is not just about wearing the cowl, it is about the myth, the presence, the legacy that only Bruce can project. This is the curse of the Dark Knight. Bruce could retire, but he knows the city cannot stand without him. Gotham is too fragile, too corrupted, and too addicted to the balance he brings. For as long as he breathes, he carries the weight, because he knows what comes if he does not.